Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make your 808s hit hard in FL Studio. So here is the secret answer that you don't want to hear. It's up to the sample to hit hard. Video over. Just playing. I'm going to give you guys a free drum kit. These are my top, I believe, 8 sounds out of 800 gigs. I found 8 sounds that I always go to. This is the hardest 808 that I found. Okay, it's a little clicky because we're playing it from the browser, but that's the hardest 808 that I found. And if you right click, open it up, and into your channel rack, it sounds like this. So let's start with an already hard 808. What I need to make this harder, not necessarily, but what we could do is add Fruity Soft Clipper to this. Now this is, this basic level. So if you're a beginner, turn the threshold to the right for hard clipping, turn the threshold to the left for soft clipping. The thing is, most people don't hear the sound of a soft clipper because the volume going into the soft clipper is not loud enough. So you have to go back to your channel rack in this case, and then turn up your channel volume. And if that's not loud enough, then you go to your pre-computed effects and use the boost knob. We're only using this to go into the soft clipper. Now we're using the fader in the mixer to turn down the volume after the soft clipper. The fader is after all of your effects. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing the volume into the soft clipper, but it gets extremely loud. So I'm going to turn the volume back down because all we want is the tone. We don't want to eat up the entire mix with this. So if I push it hard enough, it starts to fall apart. Okay, so to me, that's the 808 kind of falling apart, even though it's more aggressive, it doesn't make it better. Okay, so this is why I want to show you guys. Sometimes pushing the 808 to distort everything is not always the sound. It squares off the sound. So what if I turn this Fruity Soft Clipper to soft clipping mode? You're going to get more of a compressed sound. Now, if I push the volume going in, okay, it's not going to immediately sound like it's just distorting. It's going to slowly start to sound distorted. And you guys can see I'm pushing the volume pretty heavily into the soft clipper. So you could push it a lot harder on soft clip mode. But once you push it hard enough, it still becomes the same result. It squares off. So what's happening behind the scenes? Let's load up a Fruity Wave Candy plugin so that we can visualize what's happening. For the beginners who might not understand everything about everything right now, this is called creating harmonic content. In short, here's the sound before. Whoa, I should have probably, hopefully that didn't blow anybody's speakers. Let's add a soft clipper to the master channel. I hope that didn't blow anybody's speakers. All right, so here is the sound before. Now, if we look at the sound, it has a very small frequency range, okay? Let's make this more high def. There you go. Okay, so it has a very small frequency range. Now, what happens if I run it through the soft clipper and I push it hard enough? Now look at that frequency range, it just got bigger. Okay, so what we're doing with these harmonics is we're smacking the 808 in there so that it can reach more frequencies, higher frequencies, and be more dense of a sound. Now, there's much more than just the Fruity Soft Clipper. Again, this 808 is already hard. So let's use an 808 that isn't normally boosted like that. Now, the Spins 808, I think I have it in here. Here we go. Spins 808. This is the most common 808 you'll find. So we're going to do something like this. So it's a very tonal 808. It's great for like tonal bass changes and different things. In fact, let's make this tonal. Let's make it like a South Side type bounce. Let's do something like this. Pull this back up to the root. Okay, so let's send this through channel 1, or excuse me, channel 2 in the mixer. So right now it's just going through that Fruity Soft Clipper. It's not hitting the clipper hard enough to clip. So let's put it on hard clip mode first. So again, here's before soft clipper. Here's after. So nothing's really happening. It's like tape. You have to push the volume going into it. So let's go to the sample, go to the pre-computed effects, turn up the boost. And now we'll start to hear some of that scratchy tone that we get. Now you guys can definitely hear it, that distortion. Again, some people overly do the soft clipper. So what we're going to do is put it on soft clipping mode, not hard clipping mode. And now we can push the volume a little bit more heavy-handed. Let's go to the pre-computed effects. And now we're getting more harmonics out of it, but it doesn't sound just scratchy and distorted. We are losing some of the low end because we're slowly squaring off the sound. Okay, so let's look at the before and then let's look at the after. Let me turn this down. So on Wave Candy, we're looking at the 808 waveform. So again, it reaches up to about 300 hertz. All right, so that's the identity of it. It's frequency identity. Now let's run it through the soft clipper with the volume boost. And now the frequencies reach all the way up to 2 kilohertz, which is 2000 hertz. So we went from 300 hertz to 2000 hertz. And this is why we can hear it over like phone speakers, for example, is because we multiplied the sound into higher frequencies. So when people say how to make your 808 hit hard, they usually mean how do you create higher frequencies out of your 808. Let me show you guys a more sound design approach to this and why there is a difference. Okay, so let me get to the source of this. I'll teach you a little bit about this. I have a whole sound design course at busyworksbeats.com/premium. So on how to create your own drum kits. So here's a sine wave. And the sine wave, let's pull this. This is an analog. Let's go to basic shape. So it's, okay. So a sine wave is just, a single horizontal line for the most part. Okay, so this is at what, 100 hertz or so. Now, what happens if I add harmonics to this sound? What happens if I change the waveform even? Okay, so here's a sine wave, and let's change the waveform to a sawtooth. A sawtooth eats up all of these frequencies. That's why it sounds so full and I'll say hard, is because we have literally more frequencies to work with. Okay, so if I change it to a triangle wave, more frequencies than that sine wave. That's why we're getting more harmonics. Pulse wave is odd harmonics. Sawtooth is even harmonics. So if the fundamental frequency, the lowest frequency of a sound in this case, let's say that's 100 hertz, the second harmonic would be 2 times 100. The third harmonic would be 3 times 100. The fourth harmonic would be 4 times 100. You just multiply it until you stack up all these things. So if I was doing even harmonics to get to a sawtooth, I would go, okay, my fundamental frequency is 100. The root frequency of the sound times 2 is 200, times 4 is 400, times 6 is 600, times 8 is 800, times 10 is 1000. And I would keep stacking that up until I get a sawtooth sound. Okay, so that's where the different tonalities and timbres of a sound come from. They come from the harmonic content of a sound. Everything deals with fundamental frequencies and harmonic content. It's just how much and which shape. Because if I modulate a sine wave by itself, we get that, different frequency distributions. And this is how you get different things like house music and different things. I'm showing you this because if you don't know why an 808 hits hard, you're not going to understand that it's built into the sound most of the time. Like let me make this like short decay. The way we add a transient, it's a very fast pitch dive from high frequencies to low. So that's the knock of the kick comes from the pitch dive. Okay, so if I make this, now again, we're not making a kick right now, but let's pull this down. Let's take this off. Okay, so this is where the punchiness of a kick comes from, is the decay curvature over the pitch. If I make this slower, you get an 808 type sound. Like a 909. But the way we take the sound to the next level is we run it through things like a soft clipper where we crank the volume out of the plugin into the soft clipper until we get a nice crunchy sound. So now we turn that basic sound. Let me do a before and after because this is a really good example. So here's our starting sound, y'all. Very basic. Okay, super basic sound. Here's what it starts. Okay, you hear the doop, but you don't hear like the body of the sound because it's so low. But now we're going to run it through that soft clipper and create harmonics for the sound. And we're going to crank the volume into the soft clipper. And now we have a nice full 808 sounding sound. So that's where the punch comes from. It comes from the pitch dive. So when you guys are asking me how to make your 808s hit harder, it has to be in the sample. You can't do that with an effect plugin. You have to do it at the sound source itself. So most of the time when you guys are asking how to make stuff hard, you just need better samples, okay? So I teach you guys how to build your own drum kits at busyworksbeats.com/premium in my sound design course. So that's pretty much it. Let's pick a different 808 and then we'll wrap this up. So let's go to, in my Beatmaker blueprint, I have a bunch of 808s. It's like 120, how many 808s? 120 of the top 808s I found. Let's take something that sounds kind of normal though. Now you gotta remember, 808s are processed for the most part because that's what creates the difference in the sound is how they're processed. So most of the time your 808s are already processed, so you don't wanna overkill it. Let's do, that's the spins. Let's do spins again. This one has a little more transient energy. And this time we're gonna use a couple more plugins. Again, I don't wanna bog you guys down with too much information. But the key though is to use clippers because that creates the harmonic content you need. Okay, now I'm gonna move a little bit quicker here. Now we're gonna use what's called Fruity Wave Shaper. And we're gonna blend this in using the cog icon here. We're gonna go to the mix level, turn this to about 50%, turn oversampling on so we don't get what's called aliasing or like ghost frequencies that shouldn't be there. We're gonna turn up the pre, and then we're gonna make this curvature more concave so that it adds volume here. And then we're just gonna crank that pre into the soft clipper. We should get a nice full sound out of this. So let me see before. So here's before. Here's after. We're getting a lot more harmonics, and it's not making the sound feel like buzzy and saturated sounding. So most beginners, they kind of run to the plugins that just are overkill, but it is a sound. So I'm not gonna act like it's not a sound right now, especially for like Osama Sun and like some of the newer artists. Fruity Fast Distort is cool, but it adds too much of that buzzy stuff. So that's what most people do. They'll just slap on a Fruity Fast Distort, but Fruity Wave Shaper going into a soft clipper gives you a more rounded out sound without feeling so aggressive. Okay, so that's what I would recommend. Fruity Fast Distort's pretty aggressive. You could pull back the mix level, but it still has those harmonics. And then if you switch it to mode B, it has a different set of harmonics. So this is a much more aggressive sound, like I said, for Osama Sun type artists. You can shave off some harmonics with this threshold knob. But again, very, very, very aggressive way to do that. The next plugin I'm going to show you guys is High End, and this is becoming one of my favorite plugins for drum processing. It's called Gold Clip. Basically, it has a saturator and a transformer. What does a transformer do? It adds harmonics. What does a saturator do? It adds harmonics. That's basically all we're doing here. And then we're going to clip going into the soft clipper, and it just has a really nice sound. So let me do this. We're going to do it inside the plugin here. Let's first start with the saturation, which is this gold knob. And let's turn the alchemy or the transformer up. Let's push input. So the cool thing is they level match, so I don't have to like manually do it. So basically when I push harder into this plugin, I'm gonna have to do it with the volume because right now it's not hitting hard enough. So let's push it in to the plugin. And I'm gonna purposely clip the sound to give like the sound more harmonics. Now it's very, very subtle. So here's before. Now notice the more we push the sound going into clipping, the less boomy it sounds because we're taking away attention from the fundamental frequency. Here's before. And also let me turn off Fruity Soft Clipper. Here's after. Now this is really aggressive saturation, so let's pull it back. I'd do more something like this. Okay, so most of the time, if your guys are going to go into a clipper, you might have to compensate with an EQ after to restore some of those frequencies. So my favorite frequencies are 60 and 75. So those specifically, nothing else, just 60 and 75. So I'm going to see where does the 808 sit. It has a lot more frequency content around 60. I'm going to boost this back up to add that roundness back to the sound. So again, here's before. This also has a little more dynamic in the sound. And here's after. I forgot we have a soft clipper on the end. Let's turn that off. Here's before. Here's after. Now, if you guys can't hear the difference, let's visually show you the difference here. Here's before on the left side here. Oh, wait, I got to turn this on. There we go. Here's after. I can visually see we're getting a little more frequency content in the higher end, and it's a lot more filled in that middle frequency zone. So it's not overly doing it to where it's like caking the sound and baking the sound, I should say. Okay, so that's that. One last technique I would use is the decapitator plugin. Okay, so let's do that going into the soft clipper of Gold Clip. All right, so decapitator is from Soundtoys. So for the longest time, I didn't understand why people love decapitator. I'll kind of give a gist about it. Basically, if you're listening to an 808 over speakers and you just have this on mode A, turn up the drive a little bit, it will like fill, the 808 will just fill up your room. It's hard to hear it over headphones though. Like I've only heard this truly over speakers, but when you crank this up a little bit, I can kind of feel it on my headphones because these are really good headphones. So here's before. Here's after. Now that's going into the soft clipper. I could also add this after. So here's before. Here's after. Now we get that tone out of it, and now we can shape it with an EQ still, turn it up. That's a pretty dope tone. Another plugin that people sleep on is called Radiator. I didn't know what it did for a long time. I thought it was just like a volume thing. Had no idea. But Soundtoys, where's that at? Radiator. So this Radiator plugin, like it's hard for people in FL to understand the concept of a preamp because we're used to just everything being digital. But basically what preamps do is they take a fundamental frequency and they'll multiply it to create harmonics, like I showed you guys before. So let's make this clean. And what we're gonna do is turn down the output and turn up the input. And now we're gonna get that same kind of grit. So just make sure you turn down your output. So super slept on plugin. So here's normal. Here's with 100%. Let's do it before and after. Here's before. Here's after. And one last thing people don't use is compression. So don't sleep on compression. Really, compression, you have to hear it in context of other instruments. But the Rosetta compressor has been my like secret little thing I just throw on stuff. What I'll do is I'll put it on auto gain compensation. I'll put it on like heavy mode or smash mode. And then I'll turn up the effect knob here. I'm going to do it until I can hear it. And I'll pull it back. And what it does is it adds a curvature to your sound. This really makes sense in context of a beat. Right now, we're not making an entire beat. Let's add this before our clipping. So it's going to add that dynamic back to your sound. Here's before. And you can really shape the energy around the transient. It's really hard for a beginner to hear this because I'm doing it stop and start. But what I'm doing is like refocusing the energy of the 808 back to its transient here, making this tight. And then we can level out of the plugin here. Let's put it on hype mode just to see what it sounds like. Okay, so hype mode, you can really hear that volume dropping down on the 808. It just this makes the 808, you could feel it. It's the only way I can really explain that is now my head is like bobbing with the 808 as opposed to just hearing the 808. So that plugin has added that little ghost groove to the 808. Let's add the decapitator here. So my favorite chain would probably be, I like the fruity wave shaper sound. This is the most full sound and it sounds big. All right, so that's probably what I would go to start with. Just wanted to show you guys like what makes a sound hard, how to get it, you know, through different means, and just the different stages of gain that you guys could use to get that. I don't want to make this video like 17 hours long, so I'm going to end it here. Subscribe if you're new. To learn sound design, go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. I also teach mixing in the course called Mixing Fundamentals. So go to busyworksbeats.com/premium, and you guys can start your free trial today. And what else is there to tell you? Subscribe if you're new. Leave a comment to let me know what you guys need more like elaboration on, and share with a friend. Like the video. Peace.